You're listening to a Cup of Resilience podcast with Tamiko Drummond. Real topics, real people, real solutions.
Hello, everyone. Guess what? It is a Cup of Resilience time. My name is Tamiko Drummond, and I'm known as the Brand Success Coach. Okay, hello, everyone. I am always super excited, but today I'm excited because who do we have in the building? None other than the CEO of the webpagesite.com, Mr. Edward Ferguson is in the house.
Hello, Tamiko. I'm glad to be on your show today.
Listen, I'm excited. I know we've been planning to have you on, and schedules just did not align. But thank you for being available and readily available. And I want you to tell the people a little about yourself. But before you do that, today's topic on a Cup of Resilience podcast is, so you think you want a website, huh? Well, we have the website, the web page site.
You got it.
CEO here to talk to you all about websites. But before, again, I'm going to let Edward introduce himself. But before you do that, Edward, or after you do that, go ahead and let the people know who you are. And then I want to talk about how do we know each other, because this is a cool story.
Oh no. How far back should I go when we get there?
We go back like babies and pacifiers, okay?
It's like, oh, really? So you're that old? That means she must be.
They don't know how age.
Well, yeah, Tamiko. So my name is Edward Ferguson. I am creative director at the webpagesite.com. We do website management and website design for businesses. So if you're a business out there and you have a website, you know all of the challenges that go along with websites. Can I have a developer that I can rely on? Do I have hosting that I can trust? What happens if things go down? If I get a virus, what's going on? What am I going to do? So in those scenarios, me and my team take care of those questions.
That is awesome. Listen, y'all, we're going to talk about how Edward and I know each other, but he is super awesome at what he does, and he's an extension of my team at Lotus Consulting Marketing. I, have the stuff that I do dealing with websites and maintenance. Listen, you have to have collaboration. So I'm super excited to just have that partnership with my baby that pacifier friend from way back in the day. Edward, how do we know each other?
So let me tell y'all, we go way back to middle school at this point. And my mom, who's a teacher, math and science, that's how I got into this realm. Tamiko was a student over there. Anyway, we went to the same high school together, and let me tell y'all, she is super smart. So those AP science and mathematics classes and bio and physics.
Right.
We were sitting
coding back in the days when nobody knew what coding was.
Oh yeah, Mr. Rebello. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, I remember.
we went to a high school for science and mathematics, okay? Manhattan Center for Science and Mathematics on the FDR Drive. So shout out to the MCSM people, okay? So that is going way back. We had to be tested to get into that particular school. So we is smart.
Yeah. And check that box off right now.
Smart, okay? From way back in the day. So thank you so much for joining us. Hey, we have Ina on the line. Ina also went to Manhattan Center for Science and Mathematics. So
hey, Ina.
Hi, Ina. Thanks for joining us. But let's get into this whole website thing, because, a lot of times companies, or I'll have clients come to me and they want a website, but does anybody really know what it takes to build a website? So how does someone know what their business may need a website for?
So I guess there's a couple of ways to approach this. So I'm going to start with two different scenarios. One, I'm going to start with it being an extension of your team, and then I'll go into a little bit more detail on how you decide what you wanted to do. So one of the biggest challenges facing a lot of businesses is resources. Everybody says, I wish I had someone to do intake. I wish I had someone to book. I wish I had someone to communicate with my customers 24/7. And if you were to go to the marketplace and you did the numbers, let's say for the sake of this conversation, to hire one person, a low skilled employee, that's going to be about $50,000. And if you were to compress all of the time that they work together, it only like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it's only going to be about 3 months. And so if you're going to have that done 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, all year long, you're talking about 4 employees. That's like almost $200,000. Now, I don't know about you, but I just don't have $200,000 just sitting around. But fortunately, people have their websites. It's just sitting on the shelf, just being a brochure, or if they even have a website.
Right.
So your website can do all of these things, and it can communicate to your customers, do booking, do intake, and all of this other stuff. So your website literally is that extra person on your team. In addition to this other stuff that I mentioned, they don't take any sick days. They don't give you any attitude. They don't take any time off. So, so that's one side of it. The other side of it is because they are virtual employees, you should be able to put a job description. So a lot of times, so Tamiko, like what would be a typical question that people would ask when they say, I want a website? What would they ask you?
How much does it cost?
Right. So they talk about how much it costs and the value of it before even understanding what the website can do for them and that
Or
return
what they
on
actually
investment.
need. Yes.
Right.
Right.
And then the other question, which is even a bigger question, is what do they need the website to do? So we'll get people saying, I need a website. It's like, well, okay, do you need a online community? Do you need a brochure website?
Right.
Do you need to do e-commerce? Do you need this website to have these other functions where they may integrate with a shipping service? Or do you need an email sequence to add on to that, like an integration with a MailChimp? So there's so many different facets of just having a website that you can't just ask, how much does it cost?
Right. So we're going to come back to cost because I do get that question first and foremost. And then they'll say, well, my budget is a very low number. And it's like, no, ma'am, no, sir, no.
well, you can tell them yes. So okay. So trick question. So all of these trick question.
Edward, you
yes.
already know more than anyone how much time and effort it takes to actually build the correct website that they need.
Yes.
A fraction of a little tiny budget is no. No.
Yeah.
No.
Or it's scale it down. So
yeah, but and it's something that if they scale it down and then that's not what they actually need, right? Then what's the point? What is the point of it?
So this goes back to the wants and the needs list. So you take this back to the wants and the needs list. And just a hint for those of y'all out there, Facebook, Instagram, Yelp, YouTube, they're websites. The difference between those websites and the websites that we build custom are that you have an endorsement on your page. So you have branding from YouTube or Facebook. They're still technically websites. So in those scenarios where they don't have enough money to pay for a system that doesn't have endorsements on them,
right,
then you say, just use one of those endorsed systems and you can start off there. And then when you're ready, we can move on to the next system. But when we move on to the next system, we ask them, it's like, okay, so what do you really need? Do you really need the full 100 product e-commerce store? Or do you just need a landing page to tell people where your business is located?
Right. Right. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. it makes sense, but I do feel like a lot of times people need or want something and don't have the budget for it. And then when you do offer a different solution, like they want a Rolls Royce with a Pinto budget, right? So to me, that's like, that won't work. You've got to come back. Um,
Yeah, I think in those scenarios, and I understand what you're getting at in terms of like the pricing, and yes, there can be some people with not so realistic expectations, and in those scenarios, I would ask them to take a step back and to do it a business breakdown. That's probably the easiest way to describe it to them. It's like, okay,
right,
look, let's say your employee gets paid, let's say you're paying a web developer is anywhere between 75 to 150 per hour,
right,
depending on the skill set, what they're doing. But let's say your project's going to take about 40 hours. Well, you know at that point that whatever project that you're asking for, it's not going to be $500. It's not going to be $1,000.
right.
It's going to be something that's going to take some of their time and some of your time.
Mhm.
And depending on what you're trying to do in your business at the time, you may need to take a step back and breathe and have a breather. Or the other side of it is if it's a critical part of your business, just like they have loans for your physical storefront, your website is your digital storefront. You can use financing to purchase that product and pay it off as the product is paying your business off. So it's not an all or one scenario where, okay, I don't have enough money. I guess I'm going to have to, put my hands in my pocket and walk down the street and ask for some handouts from friends and family. No, just go into your bank or even PayPal and Stripe and these services. They offer payment and financing options for people looking to purchase digital products such as websites.
That's good. So, what generally happens? So let's kind of go into everybody talks about SEO and all these different acronyms and a lot of times, look, I've even heard people who are like, "Oh, marketing," and they just run off all these different acronyms, but then when they actually get into work, they really don't. All talk but no action, right? So, what is SEO? Um, what is SEO? Do people need it for their website? Is it free? Like, what's the purpose?
Okay. So I guess I'll break it down again into two parts. So your website is going to be doing two things. So one side of the coin is going to be looking good to your customers. So it needs to be usable by whoever's going to visit and serve a purpose and fill a need, that type of thing. So that's first and foremost. If it's not serving a purpose or filling a need or like selling products or communicating with the customers, then the second part with this SEO is going to have little value. So SEO stands for search engine optimization. And search engine optimization basically makes your website look good for computers such that when people are searching your product or your service up, it's going to show up in relevant search results. In terms of the space right now, I'm going to have to say that the space is the business area is the Wild West, and it can be a challenge to find someone that is really good at SEO. But one thing that you can do in terms of narrowing down or reducing your risk is to use services such as Upwork or even looking at Google reviews and doing your research that way. And then the other thing that you can do in terms of the space is to make sure that the company that is doing the SEO is niched down to a specific area. So like you wouldn't want a person that does fish and chip restaurant SEO do your
Right,
construction SEO.
right.
It's different keywords. You have people coming to your construction shop asking for the number today's catch of the day.
That's funny. That is absolutely funny. So how much work does it actually take to build a website? So if when an organization comes and they're looking for to build, I don't know, a platform of some type where they capture CRM, customer information. and then offer services. How long would a project like that take?
I'm going to answer with the answer that my lawyer typically answers with. I'm going to say it depends.
It depends. Right.
And don't you be lawyers?
It is a lot. Listen, it's a lot that goes into building an actual website. And sometimes you need to also have room and budget for more things. Like if there are any extra apps that you have to download to do something specific. Because sometimes it just doesn't work. So there's that you need room and time and like, okay, now I have to buy this or code it more, and you didn't write that into the agreement. What happens if in your agreements do you actually type in, okay, if this then what?
So in terms of the website build process, I think there's some things that aren't completely clear to the consumer, which is why a lot of times you see these horror stories about people that hire developers
And
or
they ghost
website
them.
builders.
They
Yeah,
ghost.
it can get ghosted depending on what the fee structure is. They
Right.
can get incomplete product. So for instance, like a website, there's so many different platforms to build a website on. And if you go to one of the online bidding services and say, I need a website, well, that website can be built old fashioned with HTML. They still have people that build HTML websites. Those websites are actually, if it's designed right, are probably more
Joomla,
secure.
people still using Joomla out there.
Yeah, people are using Joomla and Drupal. But then you have the newcomers on the space. You got Wix and Square and
Right,
Squarespace and
right.
WordPress, which is what we build in. So, like in terms of those scenarios, it's you have to be very specific about what you want. And how do you be specific if you don't know? Well, the other side of it is asking questions.
Mhm.
So you can say it's like, hey, where's the website going to be hosted? How much does it cost to be hosted? What's entailed in the build? So these components that you take to build these websites, let's say, for instance, this is a popular one. You want to have a email list created.
Mhm.
So you want a website and you want the email list to be created. Well, in that scenario, depending on the email list that you're using, the email list may have a subscription fee, and that would be a customer cost. That wouldn't be the cost of the developer, and that can go anywhere between $10, $15 a month, and up, depending on the size of your list.
Right. And to the cost of plugins as well. Some may be free and some may not be free. Um, so you mentioned that you particularly build websites on WordPress. So what's the
Mhm.
benefit of building on that platform?
So I know a lot of business owners have heard the horror stories about people building websites or building digital assets in general on these platforms. I'm not going to name any names, but
Don't
let's
it?
just say
Right.
they're they had a takedown on their website that I'll just say it's one of the websites that have sponsorship to it. Well, if it's a sponsored website, then
Mhm.
you don't own the website. The other company, other agency owns the website, and they can do whatever they want with that.
Right.
Whereas in a environment such as a WordPress environment, depending on your agreement, once again, depending on how the website is, because there are different structures on that, you can, if you're unhappy with that particular setup, in theory, you should be able to move that product over to another hosting provider, another website manager, that sort of thing. And then the other thing, which, as your business grows, you're going to probably want to do some advanced stuff, some integrations, maybe even pull the data out and put it into another system, like an SAP system and things like that. Well, WordPress has the ability to have these highly advanced customizations. And because over, I think it's about 45% of the internet runs on WordPress, you can get a developer for less money and more easily than some of these other platforms.
Mhm. That's good. So let's talk about the web page site.com,
Hmm.
because I think you're coming out with something new. You have a conference coming up. Am I mistaken? Is that correct?
Yeah. Well, I guess you're referring to the monthly, I guess, webinars and presentations
Okay.
that I'll be putting on at least for the next 12 months.
Okay.
But my whole thing is about education. It's like a smart consumer makes my job easier. So the more information that I can put out about the products and services that we use enables it actually reduces the risk, and the customer understands exactly what's going on, and they put trust in us to run their business. So in terms of our products and services, a lot of times people will have their website built and the website is beautiful on the front, but and if you look on the back end, it's very shallow.
Right.
So when I say shallow, the website may not have any backup. So if it crashes, well, the web developer, his job or her job is done. So once they hand it off to you, if it
You're on
crashes,
your own, buddy. You're
yeah,
on your own.
right.
Listen, we've been there with white screens. Have anybody had the white screen of death for your website? Okay.
White screen, yep, white, gray, unable to connect to database,
Right.
random characters across the screen,
That
or
is
the
so nerve-wracking.
redirect to these unscrupulous websites,
Right.
downloading.
Right. And there are some where people can actually steal your website.
Yes, that's the other side of it. So depending on how it's configured or not configured, um, people can steal your domain name. That's another thing that happens quite popularly. So let's say that you have um, Tamiko Awesome Author.com, and your assistant forgets or doesn't see the email to renew your subscription for the domain name, and that domain name for your website is lost. So the subscription is done, and then it says, okay, open for free for someone to purchase. Well, some unscrupulous person can say, oh wow, this domain name is free, I'm going to buy it, and I'm going to sell it back to them for thousands of dollars more
Right.
than what they paid for it. So in those scenarios, that happens quite frequently, and there's not a lot that you can do. Even if you have a trademark for the name, they may not be able to use the name, but they certainly can hold on to the name, and then it becomes this long, protracted situation where you're spending money and not getting any ROI on the money. So it's not even worth it to fight in those scenarios. Yeah.
So what exactly does your company do for the consumer, organizations, companies, etc.?
Okay, so we have two sides of the house. So we do website management and maintenance. So like those things I was telling you about, what happens if I get a virus? Who do I call? Well, you can't call the developer because they just build websites. They may not have the skill set to fix viruses. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Um, if someone deleted some stuff on the website, how can I get it back? Well, if you don't have backups or a system that has backups, we take care of that as well. We answer that question. Or what happens if I need to have some additional services added to my website and I need to have someone that I trust? So instead of hiring on one of these paid services with whoever you may get, you may need someone or a service that you can trust to handle your Shopify key, to handle your PayPal key, and not having to worry about having your information disappear or being put on the dark web. And so that's what we do on that side of the house. On the other side of the house, we do website builds. So like I said before, typically we do corporate builds, and our goal is to reduce the risk as much as possible for the customer as well as for us. So we'll ask relevant questions, and then we'll ensure that we have a quote that is suitable for what you're trying to do, and we try as best as possible to keep it to that number. And then we just build the sites from there. And then on top of that, we offer a 30-day guarantee on the website build. So that way, if the customer is not happy, they don't use the website, but they don't pay for anything either. And so that way, it ensures that they have a service that they can trust, and that they're not worried about, oh man, are they gonna rip me off? Which is a big thing that happens in the space, like you were mentioning about ghosting and stuff like that.
Yeah, that it is big. It's big. So you said something about a 30-day. How long? Well, let me not even ask that question because you're gonna say, but it depends, right?
Yes,
These
it
men
depends.
say, I will build that site in 30 days, in 2 days. No, it absolutely depends. So, what would be like one of the first steps that you would tell people if they are looking to build a website, or hey, I think I do need a website? What should they do first?
Like a regular employee, write down a job description. So your website is not just there to say, okay, I'm starting a business. I'm going to pay for my insurance. I'm going to pay for my tax. I'm going to pay for my location, my rent, and all that other stuff. Oh yeah, and we need a website. It should. If that scenario happens, then you need to take a breather and maybe put some time between you and that question about the website, and then work on the website. You should say, okay, we need a website to drive traffic to our business. We need a website to supplement sales. We need a website for our customers to aggregate and ask questions. Even so, a scenario for that would be like a help portal or a help desk system or a ticketing system, where if you have a certain type of business, let's say you have an automotive or a car business, a mechanic. Thank you.
Right.
Mechanic. Let's say you have a mechanic shop and you need a system that can communicate with customers, that um, they can open up requests, they can send and receive emails, they can do text, stuff like that. That is a need. That's a legitimate business need, and you need a system to go in place to do that. So that is totally different from I just needed a website to have my name, address, and phone number on it.
Right. So when you mentioned that you help corporate clients, like what size companies are you talking about?
Okay, so typically our target demographic is less than 30 employees. They may or may not have a marketing team. The marketing team may be one to three people, depending, and that is just so we have a liaison to communicate with, because at that point in time they can express the wants and the needs that the business has, much more clearly than, let's say, if they didn't have one.
So how do people get in touch with you?
It's
If
so
they fit, people, if you fit in what his client avatar is, how do they get in touch with you?
the avatar. You mean the blue thing?
No.
Well, it's super easy, and we made sure that it was so easy that we put it in the name. It is literally thewebpagesite.com. So if you don't remember anything from this conversation, it's something to do with websites and web pages. It's thewebpagesite.com with the THE in front of it. So don't just go to web page site. The web page site or the web page site.
Yeah, that it is easy, but I always mess it up. So it's the web
That's just
page
because you're pulling my
site.
leg. That's all.
I,
You have it written down or anything. It's like, all right, let's do
web
this one more time.
page.
Let's go
Look,
pull
I
his
do it
leg.
slowly. The web page site.com. Is there anything else that you want to let people know in regards to websites if they're thinking about it? What they should write down before they go to someone and say, "Hey, I want a website."
Yeah, so I'm gonna have to say in that scenario, be very clear about what you want and ask a lot of questions. That's the simplest thing that I can say. And then if you like I said, if you want to work with us, check us out at thewebpagesite.com. Check out our website. We have a YouTube channel where I do some promotional items and just talk about some things. Also, in terms of having a partner, it's good for this reason. So, like, let's say you have questions about what's coming down the pipe. One of the things that is coming down the pipe, which a lot of people aren't really prepared for and not really looking to, is accessibility. So, accessibility basically, from a web sense, is looking at your website and seeing how it can help people that have visual or physical impairments. Let's say, remember back in school when you took the test, when the little paper with the dots on it, and it
Right.
had the two different colors, and it's like what letter or what number does it show? Well,
Right.
someone in that class said, I can't see anything. Well, that
Hmm.
person happens to be colorblind, and they're a grown adult now with families, children's wants, needs, and they want to spend money. But if you have this website that they can't navigate easily or look through, then you just lost them as a customer, and you're out of the race before you even started. Well, let's say that there's someone that's completely blind and they need to use a machine to read. Well, they still have to buy stuff online for purchases. They still need shoes and belts and clothes and bags. And if you're excluding that part of community, then that is lost business revenue for you, and it's a lost opportunity, to be honest
Wow.
with you in that. So one of the things that I'm doing, so next month I'm actually doing a presentation on accessibility. My agency, it was important for me to have that service to offer to our customer. So my agency is partnered with Accessibility to provide those services, so that way we can reduce the exclusion and to include more people, incorporate people into this digital experience. Because if the last 2 years taught us anything, is especially from a sales perspective, is that customers are moving online and customers have money to spend. And if you're not part of that transition or that part of that revolution, then you're losing out.
Right. That is so true. And people do not think about including people that have those types of needs, having accessibility. What? So what is? Let me just ask you. What is it more like closed caption, or like what is it exactly that the
It
website will then
depends.
do?
So a lot of times, uh, it can be something as simple as making the website have more text content, or if it has a lot of pictures, the websites have the ability to put descriptions on the pictures. So instead of
Okay.
just having a picture and saying image number one,
Mm-hmm.
bracket one dot JPEG, the image itself will be labeled um, young African American girl playing on playground with siblings wearing green dress. So that could be one format, and it'll also be in the description part of the image. It can also be having the website such that if a person has, let's say, even built into Windows and Mac environments and Chrome, they have accessibility features that will actually read the page, and the person can press the tab key to move around. Well, if the website is designed with a lot of pop-ups, those are dead ends for the it can be, depending on how it's
Really?
designed, but they can be dead ends for those screen readers. And if that scenario happens, then it ruins the experience for the customer, because they can't do anything other than to close the browser window. And so that's why this accessibility thing and being aware of the stuff is super important, because you may not realize it, but if you're a person that has an impairment and you go into one of these scenarios, it's really, really frustrating, and you feel like you're being discriminated against.
Wow. Wow. That is really good to know. We have a question. Hold on. Hi, Kevin. This says, how can I get my website to show up in the top results on Google searches?
Okay, so this is kind of a mixed one. So in terms of, I'm going to say the simple answer to you, Kevin, is just to pay money for it. That's the easiest thing to do. And I say pay money, pay for ads. So Google ads, Facebook ads. This is going to be a little bit protracted, but in terms of response, but essentially, you know how you go to the grocery store and you're shopping and you're like, oh man, it's game day. Look at all these chips on the aisle, and you like swipe all the chips in because you got to get back before the
Right.
game starts and your people get there. It's like, oh yeah, oh they got the ranch right here. Cool, cool. Throw all the stuff in the cart. Well, there could be another bag of chips that may taste even better, but because you didn't see it and it wasn't at the end of the aisle, it never made it into your cart. And that's the same
Right.
thing about your website. So Google, so the retailers know this, and that at the grocery store, it's called a slotting fee. And if you've ever been around little children at the grocery store on the checkout line, you're like, how did they get two things of M&Ms, or how are they eating the candy right up the checkout line? So you have no other choice but to pay it. Well, they charge retailers to put their products there because they know that people are going to put it in their carts and they're going to buy it, and the little kiddy's going to eat it. So
Right.
Google is the same way. They have their slotting fee, but it's in a digital space. So if you actually looked at how the structure is of a Google search, the top three to, I think it's 3 to 6, depending on what it's structured, are all paid advertisements. And then comes the organic stuff. And if you get to the organic stuff, it's like an uphill journey to even get there. So I would say, unless you're playing for the long game, to do the Google ads, and that's how you're going to get there to where you need to go. Then you'll get the money to pay for the SEO stuff.
Right. Right. That's good to know. I want to jump back right before we leave, and thanks for that question, Kevin. Um, should you outsource website maintenance, or should someone outsource website maintenance?
I'm gonna be a little bit biased on this one, so I'm gonna say I'm gonna say absolutely yes. And the reason being is when you start your business, you are passionate about a specific thing. You don't have the bandwidth or may not have the time or the resources to go and learn a completely different thing. And like I mentioned before, to stay abreast of all of the changes, whether it's talking about SEO or getting to your website to the top of the list, or whether it's accessibility or one of the many other changes that are coming down in terms of website design, um, you your main focus should be building your business. So in that scenario, um, absolutely hire an agency, a trustworthy agency to manage your infrastructure. They will take care of your back end. And if something happens, like you get hacked or a virus, they'll come in and clean that situation up. Um, yeah.
That's awesome. Now, I want to ask you this. So, and I'm sure everyone's heard about the metaverse, Web3, and all of these different things, and people buying land in the metaverse or attending church in the metaverse. So what is it? What does the future look like for web development and that customer experience?
I think that at the end of the day, it's still going to require individuals or an individual to manage it. And I even look at it from my personal career. So years ago, I've been in IT for more than 25 years at this point. And I remember when I was starting out to be an email administrator, like for a corporation, you can make like $200,000 in terms of salary at that point in time. It was like anywhere between 150 and 200 plus $1,000. Now, fast forward 25 years, for someone to stand up an email, all I need is like $6 and access to the internet. They can go on Google or Office 365 and set up.
Right.
Now, in that same vein, yes, you may need some advanced help to get it together, but certainly you're not paying $200,000 to to have your email running for your company. And the web system is going to be the same way. So you may not, it may be easier, like it's easier now even to build a website, but there's certain things that, in terms of the build process that consumers don't account for. So like in terms of like the layout, I can't tell you how many sites that I've seen that don't even have a call to action on it. A call to action basically says, tells the customer how they're going to communicate with you. There's no phone number on it. There's no button to say, go to the form. There's nothing. There's not even any text. Sometimes it's just like a beautiful image. And it's like, we're the best at whatever. As a customer, it's like,
what
okay.
do you want me to do? I know,
Yeah.
I know. Right, right. And it's becoming increasingly a shorter amount. I remember years ago, it was like, yeah, you have 10 seconds to grab people's attention. Honestly, right now, I think it's like 1 to 2 seconds to grab somebody's attention for them to do something. So it's like, okay, here you are, press.
So you have to be very specific and in order to connect with them.
Mm-hmm. And it's got to be easy. It's got to be easy. That's absolutely right, because you get distracted. The phone could ring, or a child could say, "Hey," and then you lost that customer pretty much. So that's good to know. So thank you. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you wanted to go over?
I think that's so check out the webinar. So check us out on the webpagesite.com. There'll be some resources on that. In terms of future stuff, so stay tuned. If you're not connected with me on LinkedIn, feel free to connect with me. I'll be announcing some new things coming up in the not so distant future. So I'm building a directory service, which will hopefully allow people to have some more reach and some more control over their environments. So that's something new. And then also, in terms of just collaboration, so Tomiko and I have been collaborating on several other things. So stay close to her as well, because we'll be announcing some new stuff in the not so distant future as well.
All right. Awesome. So we thank you so much, Mr. Edward Ferguson, CEO of the webpagesite.com.
.com.
.com So until next time, you have been watching A Cup of Resilience with your girl, Tamiko Drummond, the brand success coach with Lotus Consulting and Marketing, and we are out. All right. Bye, everyone.